As noble citizens, we must bypass a life of dormancy and vice to pursue the generative endeavor of a hard day's work. The benefits of these pursuits are not secured by chance or charity, but through the merit of your character and the firmness of your convictions. It is you who are planting the seeds of trees whose shade you know you shall never see.
Hello, welcome. We're back. We're just chatting. We're talking dogs a little bit. My co-host was talking about speciation amongst dogs and
talking
cats
dogs,
emerging.
but this is not a conservative wind podcast.
Oh, yeah, good disclaimer. But I wanted to. Have you ever heard of a Spitfire dog or a spit roast dog? I think they were called.
No, I've never heard of that.
It's crazy. I'd never heard about this either. And they don't technically exist anymore. It was a specific breed of small dog that the British cultivated around the time of the Industrial Revolution. Because, I think that's I always think dog breeding and knowing about dog breeds is an archetypical white trait.
Totally. It was high British society.
Yeah. So the British had this breed called the spit roast dog, and the spit roast dog was a breed of dog made specifically to live in a little box above the hearth area and run on a little wheel to turn the spit. And that was this dog's life. It was almost like a dachshund size, kind of small, but just basically a small dog made to the Flintstones, literally like the Flintstones sort of thing, but very dreary and Victorian and Dickensian. So it's one of those things that's historically quaint, but also horrific when you think about it, as dog breeding truly is.
Yeah, and the concept of pure breeding again goes back to that Victorian high British society, I think. Even though, of course, we've been domesticating animals for as long as we've been settling permanently as humans.
Right. Well, and all this being said, too, getting a giant-ass dog and a bunch of little dogs together and just seeing what happens is
dogfighting.
Very fun. Not in a dog. It's not like a one big dog versus 100 kind of sense. It's more like just watching these dogs that are on totally opposite ends of the species spectrum that they're within get to know each other and learn to. It's just very.
I got to be honest,
it's
my
very
friend.
Delightful.
I think this sounds illegal. What you're talking about.
No, it's not. I have pictures and video. It's a good time. Just dogs of different size hanging out. So I don't know. Don't you cast aspersions, my friend? Don't you keep your aspersions to yourself?
You're not running an illegal dog fighting ring, are you?
It's more like a dog card game. It's more like
it's like that picture of the dog.
An illegal poker game for dogs. Yes.
I've seen some pictures of that.
Yeah, so that's more what's going on in my house. But speaking of smoke-filled back rooms, you like that? We're
doing the news.
We're doing the news. It's time for the news. It just keeps happening. It's really annoying, and I wish it would stop because it stresses me out. But also,
nobody wants to live in interesting times.
Stop with the damn news. But we were talking about this before we got on too, that it's so everything with this Iraq war is, or Jesus Christ, do you see that? Do you see what I mean? Where it's everything about this Iran war is so predictable and so exactly the kind of that we have seen before, but dumber and stupider and worse, that it's been such this weird series of oh geez, there's news constantly happening, and then looking at it and be oh yeah, the thing we all knew, oh yes, the Trump administration is forced to capitulate, the American century of humiliation looms large.
Oh wow, we predictably have to surrender after months of dragging our feet on the Iran war. And we haven't really had many updates to give you because even though it sounds like there's constantly more and more happening all the time, if you really take the broad perspective, not much has happened in the Iran war since we last talked about it.
All the sound and fury amounts to Donald Trump lying about winning, pretending to have won already in order to try and put himself in a more advantageous negotiating position, and then realizing that that might work surprisingly well in the world of business and the stock tickers and all that jazz, but in, real material warfare, you cannot bluster your way through winning a war against a sovereign nation that does not want to be overawed.
And will not accept your terms and conditions.
Right, yes. And won't accept your terms and has absolutely no reason to, and has been able to sustain their society for the entire time it has been essentially being subverted by our nation. Like that's one of those things that I think, like when we're talking about how like the pallets of cash thing, which I talk about stuff that came to life, right?
Or the 47 years that he keeps bringing up, and it's like, well,
right,
our invasion goes back to 1951. That's 75 years. Right. Why are you picking 47 over and over? And he wants to only talk about the Iranian Revolution in the early 80s as if our conflict started there. No, it begins 30 years before that, at least.
But I do, the point I was starting to make about Iran is that it does occupy this, like, it's always occupied this weird, extremely fraught part of the American, like, national psyche of being something that's, like, an existential issue to be addressed. Right. And I would have a hard time pinning down exactly when. I think it's probably like the hostage crisis, just when that really like came into its own. As like
that's what he's like harkening back to 47 years.
Yeah,
he's talking about the embarrassment of the Carter administration.
If you shift your perspective slightly to like Iran and being an Iranian person, man or woman, it's like you will certainly have issues with your society and how it's run, but you will also be cognizant of the fact that the very foundation of the society you are in has its basis in resisting being sculpted and having your sovereignty subverted by the United States. Yes. And I don't think, and that's not like the mullahs using our freedom as a weapon again to manipulate their people. That is literally historically true. And I don't think that the average American really is fully cognizant of that. And I think it's fascinating how it's like this essentially intelligence industry up that has been this like multi-generational, essentially job security program for all these cretins and creeps is this like now the signal final issue for the death of the American empire. And it also, I think, reminds me of Florida in some ways too, where it's like it's this thing that everyone is obsessed with, but they can't exactly talk about why or place why. You know what I mean? It's this thing that like occupies this very central place.
Yeah, it's like what comes next. It's like Florida is the first step to manifest destiny. And they don't want to talk about the entire project of Manifest Destiny. So it's like putting one foot forward and focusing on the first step and maybe even over-focusing on that first step without really being willing to admit, well, what comes after that? What's your next ambition after you think you've toppled this country? And Trump has already said, because he's embarrassed from having lost this conflict and having to surrender, he's already saying, well, maybe on the return trip, we'll just invade Cuba now. So he's constantly got another angle to try to make himself look like he's victorious. And he thought that it was just going to topple like dominoes, like what he did in Venezuela, he could do again easily in Iran. And he learned what happens when you get your stuck in a glory hole. He's not able to pull out anymore. And the only thing that seemingly the only thing that seemingly could make him look like a big strong man again after he's finally severed his ties.
Any day now.
Yeah, he's going to be walking out with his tail between his legs and
giving a conference from the bathroom where it's like my is no longer stuck in the glory hole while he's like.
I'm not going to tell you what I had to give up in order to get out.
There's a bunch of blood. It's like he clearly had to cut off his penis. It's like, I didn't have to give up anything in order to
and now he's like,
just let me go.
And now he's holding up some other phallic object, and he's like, well, this is what we're going to use on Cuba next, and I'm a very tough man.
And then, the Chinese have already been unequivocal in saying hands off Cuba, which is new and surprising for the Chinese, but I think they're, starting to feel they're
strutting.
After like they can maybe start doing a little reaping from all the sowing, and I really hope so.
After Trump's,
I encourage them to be more ambitious.
Yeah,
we are a paper tiger, or worse.
And Trump, of course, met with Xi a couple weeks ago and didn't really get anything out of it except that he got to take pictures with a strong man as he sees Xi, that he constantly talks about how he rules over 1.5 billion people with an iron fist and things like that. So that to him is the only upside in this meeting with China, because he didn't actually get any concessions. And Xi actually told him in no uncertain terms, your empire is failing and the Chinese empire is ascendant. Right. He actually called it, I might have to find out, but he made a reference to ancient Greek history that went way over Trump's head.
It's a continual theme. The Iranians have been doing a lot of the same thing where they're like, there's a quote somewhere where it's like, I think one of the Iranian ambassadors saying like, well, I'm certain the Americans will have read Alexis de Tocqueville. And it's like, don't be so certain, my friend.
Don't be so certain that Americans are well read. Especially their leadership.
There is a real tragic, there's no way to have the conversation with an immigrant person who has this romantic vision of the United States to dissuade that, because it's like, you know what, I really do appreciate your enthusiasm coming into this place, and it is the people who come into this place from outside with all of those romantic ambitions and dreams that are usually what bring the best. Those are the people who actually are the best part of this place. But the vision they come into this country with is always something I'm like, I hope that's true for you. That's kind of how I end up feeling, is like, I hope that works out for you, because it's
I hope America works out in that way with the American dream, that anybody who works hard can go as far as they want. I really do hope that works out for people. But for those of us who have been mired in this country's politics our entire lives, that glimmer of hope is not really there.
Well, and speaking of people who work hard and, make their dreams a reality, and smoky back rooms, like I was talking about before, we derailed ourselves, as we're wont to do. But a very important document was released very recently, and we wanted to talk about it because it's been quite sought after, and it pertains to, I'd say, probably one of our favorite organizations here on the show, which is the Democratic National Committee, the central body of the Democratic Party. They released their autopsy of the 2024 election.
The one that they'd been resisting releasing for a while.
Yeah.
And now we know why, because it's incredibly sloppy work. They let AI do it, just like the college that ended up having the AI read their students' names, and then they had hundreds of students' names not be read, and there was one of the professors had to come up and apologize, and she said, well, what did we learn?
So here's what's happening. We're using a new AI system as our reader. So that is a lesson learned for us.
And so also people were booing the AI tech CEOs who were, instead of giving an actual hopeful graduation speech, they used the time to stand in front of students and brag about the accomplishments of the AI that are going to replace their jobs and already have replaced 30% of entry-level jobs. And so they were booed, obviously, as one would expect when a tone-deaf Google CEO comes out in front of the students and says, I think his exact words were, deal with it. And then he said, either quote me now or pay me later, but AI is going to be a part of every single one of your lives, whether you like it or not. And he got nothing but boos from that, as, again, you would expect. Shocking, right? Yeah. But these people are so tone deaf.
AI is rewriting production as we sit here. I know it. Deal with it. Like I said, it's a tool. Hey, like I said, you can hear me now or you can pay me later. Hey, then do something about it, okay? It's a tool. Make it work for you.
And I did like also Alex Perlman, I think his name is. He issued a billionaire challenge, which I thought was pretty exciting. He's trying to make it go viral after Jeff Bezos made this embarrassing interview where he said that you can I already pay billions of dollars. I could pay twice as much in taxes, and you still wouldn't be able to pay teachers well. So therefore, you just have to accept that I'm taking over your entire lives, and there's nothing you can do about that.
These people sometimes say that I don't pay taxes. That's not true. I pay billions of dollars in taxes, and it's a perfect. Again, if people want me to pay more billions, then let's have that debate. But don't pretend, that's going to solve the problem. You could double the taxes I pay, and it's not going to help that teacher in Queens. I promise you.
And so this challenge was issued after that, where the guy said, I challenge any one of these billionaires to walk through any city or town in the U.S. without security and just walk through it and just see what you've done. See if you're greeted by smiling people who are willing to pat you on the back and say you've done a great thing. See if people feel the same, that you pay your fair share of taxes.
I have a challenge. My challenge is for any billionaire to walk through an American city without security. See, too many of these billionaires, they've been flying overhead. They've been using social media and getting soundings from consultants and yes men and AI to tell them that we should be happy with what they've done. So that's my challenge. Jeff Bezos walked through a town with no security. See Main Street all boarded up, all those shops closed. See a shop foreman strung out on fentanyl leaning against a wall. See a delivery robot drive over a homeless person to drop off a $28 sandwich that your buddy Kevin O'Leary says we shouldn't eat. Listen to the dull hum of a data center drown out all of the crickets at night. And then look at the price of corn, because you've replaced that empty cornfield with AI slop. Go look on your works, Ozymandias, and see what joy it brings to the people. Walk past a closed hospital. Listen to the cries of a grandmother as the ambulance takes too long to pick up her husband from his heart attack. And then tell us, again, how your taxes shouldn't be higher and you don't need to give more to charity. Because you know how to spend the money. Because you send Katy Perry to space. And then you rent the Italian city of Venice to marry a plastic wife in front of Sydney Sweeney at a bubble party. Go walk through our cities and tell us all that you've done. And then see if we greet you with a smile and a handshake and the pat on the back and the well wishes and respect that you never got from your dad.
I sincerely doubt that any billionaires would actually take him up on that challenge, which goes to show that they are not anywhere near as proud of their accomplishments as they claim they are.
They actually know who to be afraid of.
Yeah, they know who to be afraid of. They know what they've done.
They have coherent class interests, and they have an organization like the Democratic Party there to make sure that the class interests of the general public, the working class, are as obscured as possible. They would have no problem walking through the DNC, unencumbered. So
yeah. But yeah, we got pulled a little off from where we were, but as we always do.
Yeah. No, yeah.
But we'll try to get back. We'll try to circle back.
The billionaires, the DNC is easy to circle back to too, because it's like it connects back to everything so much, and it also is like a central discussion that's been had over the past several months, and it goes back to something we've had where it's like the Democratic Party is the organization where you are paid to be bad at what you do because that is beneficial for
horrible
your boss.
And that's why they relied on AI. Just like they use the AI to read those college student names, and they don't really give a and there might be some class action lawsuits because that's pretty shameful that these students weren't actually able to walk after getting a 4-year degree. But ultimately, these people do not care. They're forcing AI down our throat.
And that's the thing.
It doesn't matter if it works. It doesn't matter if it's a complete failure. Exactly. They're still going to brag about the accomplishments of it. And that is really to tie back to the DNC autopsy. It was sloppy work because they relied exclusively on AI to do it. And anybody could have predicted that the AI was going to up. And it did.
Well, and I don't know if that's been proven quite yet, but it's like that's something about the Eric Schmidt thing that's like, I keep waiting to be impressed by the capabilities of AI because these motherfuckers are so confident and they have so much money. And they are the ones that get, like, theoretically the super high-end, like, paid for version of the AI that's actually, like, at the cutting edge of everything.
Good.
I guess that's the impressive one because the free version
they sure as are not sharing that with us.
The free version is useless. Yeah, like I'm sorry, like and I'm not paying for any of this. Like the whole value proposition of it's crazy to me that like businesses are doing this right now en masse, but it's like, okay, you don't own this product that you're paying them for, and you're paying for this product that you are teaching how to do the functions of your company, how to essentially perform the thing that makes money for your company. That's what you're doing by using it
pay
to
an outsider to
and you're
get all of that data.
That has no interest in keeping you in business. To teach it how to do what
your
you do
job
to make money. Like it's so stupid
and short-sighted. How long are you going to continue that model of paying other people to copy your business?
Everyone who is in the C-suite of America at this point being like, oh, we have to go in on AI. I need to find a way to corral you people like cattle into some kind of, I don't know, like we'll call it a camp where we are isolated from the rest of society. Because clearly you already think and operate like cattle, and clearly you're too stupid to be useless for anything, and you're paid ungodly sums of money to make these stupid decisions that don't even make good business sense. Like this is what I mean, where it's like in the short term you can look at your labor costs and say, ooh, look, that number is good. Yeah, oh, if we sell the copper wire, we'll make even more money next month. And it's like, asshole, the company you're paying this money to, again, to teach about the core function, to build an AI agent that does
do
the
all
work
of your
you do to make money. You don't own that thing that they're making. Why the would they keep you around? Once they have optimized the agent that does the job for your company, and then that thing does it so well that it gets rid of all the labor, why are they keeping the executives around in the C-suite? What are you doing for them now? It's idiotic.
In my own anecdotal experience, too, my own company, which is a pretty large enterprise, sent out an email a while back warning us that it is against company policy for us to use these new AI secretary services that come out. Why? Because it's spyware. It is spyware. There is nothing about that is not literally built to spy on what you're doing, to gather all of the information. And so our own campus IT department said, whoa, the permissions that that you have to open up to this thing are absolutely unacceptable. You will be fired if you're using this stuff. First, you'll get a warning, but if you keep using this you will be fired. You're giving away our company's secrets to some random third party. It's not helping you. It's not beneficial in any way to the company. You think you're saving time, but it's actually a perfectly built data gathering surveillance system to hand off to some third party.
I recently was tasked with building like a spreadsheet to analyze something or other, and it was kind of like, boring and enervating to work on, and I see Gemini right in the corner, so I'm like, screw it. You know what? Let's see what this thing can do. And I tell it what I'm trying to do, and I'm like, go forth, do what you can. And first off, it takes time to do all that shit. It takes plenty of time. It's not instant. Because this is the thing that pisses me off, too, with the AI things is like, I'm sorry, can they actually use the computer yet? Because it seems like a lot of this is copying and pasting we're talking about too. It's like, I don't understand how much this thing can actually control a mouse and control a computer. Doesn't seem like they really can very much yet, or if they can, that's a very dangerous functionality to hand over. But back to what I was getting at is like, I'm waiting for this thing to put the whole thing together. It's doing, its thing. It's taking its good sweet time. It puts something together. It doesn't work. It's not very useful. And
then you're not supposed to give thought to how much energy it uses and things like that, which is just a glorified dumbwaiter effect. That's all it is. It's an elevator that the actual people do the work on the other side of it. Just like when you get things delivered to your house through Amazon, you're not supposed to think about how people are in bottles in order to get you that thing. It's just meant to feel instant gratification, the buy now with one click, and you don't imagine, there's actually a ton of energy being used on this.
And your manager gets to look at how much less time you're spending on things and go, great, look, I'm doing good management. But anyone who's ever had an extended time in any workplace in America has had the experience of training someone when it's not in your job description or pay to train people. I've had that happen more times than I can count, and I, quite frankly, at this point, don't even get annoying about it at this point, because at this point, it's like, I do what I can to survive in a given workplace, one, and then two, it helps me on some level to explain sometimes the thing I'm doing. Like, that can help me understand it better, and I like people. That's the other part, is I like people. But when I was sitting there with this tool, building this spreadsheet, I immediately had the feeling of training someone I am not paid to be training and not making enough to be training, but there was the lack of an actual physical human being there that also works for the company I work for.
Right.
Which was just turned the whole thing into this, like, what the f*** am I doing? Like, what am I doing this for? Like, why am I going to help Gemini become more useful when I don't work for like, what the f*** is the point of this? And paying for that? We are going so far off here, but it's like, it is so enervating. Everything about AI. I'm very blessed that it doesn't come up in my workplace that much.
Well, that's what they decided to do with the DNC autopsy, was rather than actually have professionals who know how to do what they're doing and analyze the data,
yet,
they left it
seems
to
pretty
AI.
Obvious.
It's pretty obvious.
It's just like what I said that about the Epstein redactions too, where it's like, I feel fairly certain those must have been done with AI because the whole thing was so slipshod and crazy.
Or a find and replace function, like we said.
And this is so this is the let's break it down a little bit. So let's just sort of talk timeline a little bit, because this event has been preceded by so much smoke of people being like, well, there's an autopsy. Where's the autopsy? Oh, we don't want to see the autopsy. Oh, the autopsy's not ready for prime time. Oh, the autopsy doesn't have anything about Palestine. All these things.
Yeah. And there's suspicions, well, does it have anything about Palestine? Is that why they're not showing it? And it turns out, no, it has absolutely nothing about Palestine. Not one mention of how that issue may have affected Kamala's performance
here's the story.
In 2024.
The Democrats lose in 2024. They decide they need an autopsy, as any competent party would. Ken Martin, I believe, has it done for free by someone who already works at the DNC as a part of their job, and they get it done, and it's immediately decided that this is not
we
something
can't
they want to
release
release
this
publicly
for some reason.
Yeah, and now after much that creates its own news cycle. Obviously, I think there is a non-zero chance if they just released this right off the rip, people would have been like, "Oh, this is your standard fare DNC apologia bullshit." You know, it's like
it was obvious it wasn't going to talk about
it's so par for the course with what the DNC does that it's almost like not surprising in its own way. That's very like, as is often the case, it's what it lacks that is more revealing than what's in there. And like he said, it doesn't have anything about Palestine, Gaza, genocide. That's obvious.
Which we know for a fact that influenced Michigan massively. It
doesn't have anything about cost of living or inflation. It doesn't have anything about Biden's age or competency or dementia or anything.
Yeah,
those things, those words don't appear in the thing. So that
what the hell are you analyzing?
Right. That's the thing is that I think that's the thing that's more surprising about it than anything else is what it lacks. And it has people wondering is this just a early version? So they don't have to release the really juicy stuff about why they actually lost, because it's so obvious what actually cost them the defeat that I think the idea that in the twilight hours of the 2024 election, someone who is paid probably a six-figure salary, quite frankly, to work for the DNC could produce this completely devoid of meaning flaming pile of shit. I think that strains
and if they could point
people,
to
and I understand why, because it's like in any reasonable organization that would be an insane outcome.
And if they could point to absolutely any data that actually proved something besides what people were speculating, which is that Kamala's refusal to distance herself from Biden's genocidal Palestine policy being a major one of them, if they had any evidence whatsoever that they could produce to show that that was not the issue, they did not in any way reveal that with this autopsy. They did not show anything that, to my mind, could possibly present any alternative case besides those very obvious things that people were speculating about from the very beginning. And if they had that, I'm sure they would have produced it. But the fact of the matter is that they don't. And so they have this AI-created drivel. Where they mentioned trans. I learned that.
No, they really just did this. They really just think this way. They really are the most... It's amazing how it's to rise...
Yeah, one of the things they talked about was how a Trump trans ad, which said that Kamala is for they, them... That was one of the things they said was effective at swaying the election results. Really, that had more of an impact than the Palestinian or Muslim sympathetic vote in Dearborn, Michigan. Really?
Right the off. I think I've said before that one of the defining traits to me about any consultant class Democratic apparatchik is that you have a almost supernatural ability to avoid ever saying anything that will ever get you in trouble in a workplace in any way, fired or not, anything disruptive at all. And I feel like this has been the crown gem of that observation. It's the guy who wrote this did not even get fired until just after they released this and the public pressure became too much. But it's again, this is just so devoid of substance that it's kind of shocking that any kind of organization that is this is a multi-billion-dollar, this is the oldest political party on earth. This is one of the oldest political organizations on earth, and it's this wildly ineffective. That's the point. That's the reason. That's the reason why I can't remember the name of the author of this, but he gets into this position not because he's insightful or a good analyst, but because he says the thing that his bosses want to hear. And it's an entire massive structural organization built on telling your bosses what they want to hear regardless of the substance of facts. And because it's politics, it's not business, they don't actually have to deliver on a product other than being in office. And that's why it's the only thing they think about is being in office. They think politics amounts to how do you get into and stay in office. They don't think that it has any other meaning besides that. And it's really just disturbing, honestly.
Yeah, if you look at their, like Madison McMorrow recently was caught a lot of flack from the Democratic base because we're no longer having it when people tell us, oh, I support access to healthcare. I support rather that when you're asked up front, do you support Medicare for all? And her excuse is, oh, well, Donald Trump and RFK would be in charge of the Medicare system if we had it. Or she says, oh, well, it's really, really unpopular. And there's no possible way that I could actually just go to the mat and actually try to popularize this idea of Medicare for all. We have to go with the path of least resistance, which is, yet again, Obamacare. No other ideas. Obamacare. That's all.
Right.
If you were Queen of the United States, would you support universal health care if you could just wave a wand and make it happen?
I think, again, I go back to, I would model it after the education system. Some people choose private, some people choose public. And universal health care to me means everybody has access to health care.
Yeah, right. And it's like,
let the corporations and, again, the bosses drive the conversation and don't listen in any way to what the base is telling you, even when it's now overwhelming 80% of the Democratic base is opposed to the genocide in Palestine and Gaza. And yet they are still saying that seemingly had no impact and didn't even mention it a single time in this autopsy, which has to go to them actually find and replace and remove those words, period.
That's right. Like, that's the question is on everyone's mind is like, is that what happened?
Did you just,
did they just
strike absolutely everything from the record that was in any way controversial to your bosses?
Avoid, and it's kind of remarkable, like I said, it's like the ways in which they found to avoid actually getting to the substance of the issue. It's like they found themselves having to turn inward so many times and turn away from the actual problem at hand because it could not be discussed or addressed so many times that they ended up in the exact same place as the Republicans, where it's blaming trans people. And I mean, remember, like, Seth Moulton right after the election was right. It's like they're primed and ready, and it's like it makes sense because it's like when you remove everything from politics that actually is the substance of politics, then it's not shocking that
what tiny marginal group can we throw under the bus and blame?
That's the process. The process both parties are undertaking is not one by which they're trying to like redistribute resources in any meaningful way. It is a process of essentially avoiding conversations that they can't that are not paid not to be a part of. Right, that are not to be a part of the conversation of politics anymore. Like, should you have healthcare? Should you have a job? Should the roads be better? Like, their job, both parties, that is what their job is to do. And they have different strategies to have discussions that are okay to have. But when you remove enough, because at the end of the day, everything falls into politics when you whether you like it or not. It's like eventually they both end up in the same place, which is just blaming like the smallest and least consequential minority group you could possibly imagine, which is like trans people and like queer people and just people who are like dealing with different like stages and transitions and like mental health like periods in their life. Yeah,
you were able to do an analysis on the impact of I'm with they them, but you couldn't do an analysis on how did inviting Liz Cheney up to the Democratic National Convention.
Exactly.
How'd that play with the base? And how'd it play when Kamala said, I want to have the most lethal military?
As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
Was that
good? Did the base like that?
What people were craving? Yeah, you f***ing God. And this is like for this show in its own, like, this is where we do kind of strike a little different tone from the Hassans of the world. And we respect what they're doing. And it is necessary and important. We're going to talk about Graham Plattner here in a minute, too. But I really do feel so strongly, and stuff like this just reaffirms it, that there is no salvaging this organization. There is value to be had in participating politically in the Democratic Party as a left-wing candidate, because what comes after will inevitably, that experience will come in handy for that in a number of ways. It's necessary to sort of crash up against the rocks of an organization like this in order to demonstrate where it can't be effective and what the bounds of politics actually are. And I am supportive of participation in the Democratic Party, but I also really, really hate them and can't conscience it for myself. And what I want more is to participate in the PSL and participate in building an alternative.
Yeah, and as you said, hating the Democratic Party, and you just brought up Graham Plattner, you can very much tell that they are at this point just scraping the bottom of the barrel in order to try to find anything on this guy that could stop his momentum. And at this point, the Nazi tattoo didn't work. That was your biggest piece of Oppo research.
That's pretty good.
It was a pretty good find. Did not work. Same effect as the tapes with Donald Trump. The guy barreled through it. He's an unstoppable locomotive headed for the Senate position. And at this point, even Janet Mills has dropped out, which makes him the presumptive nominee for the Democratic Party.
So hold up. What the listeners may or may not know is that this podcast is by and for veterans. All right, we're a veterans podcast. We are veterans. We don't talk about it very much because we're not allowed to, but we're veterans and we support the troops and we know about the troops and platoons and brigade. We know all that.
And so we know what kind of a scandal there is that will really land with the vets.
Right, exactly. Civilians don't realize that, the U.S. military, one of the, core tenets of the U.S. military that civilians may not be aware of is that you do not mass.
Yeah, Marines never mass.
Never jork your hog. You never touch that. You don't even look at your from the moment you land in boot camp till the second you get back home. That's Jody's business.
Yeah,
you're not.
You bring great shame on the nation the second you think about your hog.
You never bring that into the battlefield. No, that is that is no master
and
under
much
any
less
circumstances.
For you to have done that back in 2005 is absolutely unacceptable.
Well, and
for the next 21 years, you cannot enter politics. That is a hard and fast rule. You brought shame to the nation by masturbating and admitting to it.
That's what we're getting at, is that Graham Plattner was caught on Reddit having admitted to jorking his thing. And as veterans, this really did upset us deeply. We were both like, no!
Yeah, I was able to get past the Nazi tattoo. But when I heard that he masturbated in the porta potty in 2005, I said, I am done with this guy. It's like the tapes
I looked up
for
to
me.
You.
I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. I don't even know. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the
As soon as I heard that Donald Trump said, I grab him by the that was the moment when I said, this guy, he can't be in the public light because that was the one bad thing that he's done. And other than that, I can't really think of anything that brought shame on the nation that Donald Trump has done. It's just lewd sexual material, like the petticoat affair, the petticoat affair was definitely the biggest scandal of the Jackson administration, not the genocide of people based on their race. It was really that this guy in his cabinet decided to marry a bar wench. That was just way beyond the line.
Well, what's more American than being distracted by the hilarious antics of your political officials and not paying attention or addressing the horribly genocidal other things that they're getting up to? And I mean, the Iran war and then Trump, the Iran war and Palestine, and then Trump's most recent comments about his son's wedding are the modern parallel that, God, I can't help but find that hilarious. But,
I'd love to talk about that because I believe today might be the day of the wedding, and Trump had to tell his son, I've known you my whole life. I've known you a very long time. but I'm a little bit too busy. You know, there's things going on as the president, and so I'm not going to be able to attend. Yeah. So.
Ron.
I said, you know, this is not good timing for me. I have a thing called Iran and other things. That's one I can't win on. If I do attend, I get killed. If I don't attend, I get killed. By the fake news, of course, I'm talking about. No, but he's got a very person who I've known for a long time, and hopefully they're going to have a great marriage.
And I'm sure, like Michael Scott, he says, all my customers are my favorite clients, but this one's not really a very important client. And I imagine that's kind of the feeling that Trump isn't willing to say about this son. I actually don't know if this one is Eric or Don Jr. who's getting married. Frankly, I don't even
Don Jr. Well, but I was starting to say too that just to finish up on the Graham Plattner update is that like it seems like so deeply disappointed as veterans, but overall it seems like he is probably going to win, because if you're the presumptive Democratic nominee in Maine, you're probably gonna win.
And he's now going up against Susan Collins, who I can give you a little bit of a insider baseball knowledge on. A little inside baseball about what's going on in Maine.
What you got?
Because I live kind of in close proximity. Everybody for the last probably 2 decades has hated Susan Collins. They know what she does.
Yeah.
They know that she plays the rotating villain for the Republican Party and will only occasionally find a spine to vote against them when she's perfectly safe. And everybody's onto it. And so the best possible thing that she could do, honestly, is to not even attend the debates, because if she attends the debates, it is an absolute certainty that Plattner will be able to smack her around constantly with her record. And it is her own decisions that have led to this cudgel that can be used to beat her over the head. And it's only that the people who have gone against her in debates thus far have played along with the machine. So they simply don't bring up the things that the bosses tell them not to say. But Plattner seems to be trampling his way through the primaries, regardless of what the powers that be are thinking.
But there's a deeper change, and I think it's a couple things. First and foremost, and people often forget this, 2020, Collins had already voted for Brett Kavanaugh, but Roe had not been overturned. And Collins's real pitch for a long time was like Olympia Snow. She tried to make herself look like, Olympia Snow actually was this, by the way, but Collins is trying to make herself look like this moderate Republican who will buck her party, a woman senator from Maine who is pro-choice, who supports reproductive rights. That fiction could still exist in 2020 because Roe was still in place. Roe is no longer in place. I mean, she said it was settled law. She said it was never going to change, which is why she voted for Brett Kavanaugh. Well, at this point, it has changed because of her vote for Brett Kavanaugh. So either she was lying or she completely misunderstood what was happening. Either way, that doesn't show like a really solid, political acumen. And I think in many ways, that alone is relatively disqualifying, not just because of the implications, but because of the, frankly, just incompetence of it. Then there's the element where at this point, I don't think you could come up with a better avatar for the long-serving, self-enriching establishment politician than Susan Collins, who raises an immense amount of money outside of the state of Maine, who takes an immense amount of money from AIPAC. She takes an immense amount of money from special interest groups and fossil fuel companies, and she has a very high-performing stock portfolio. I think a lot of people in Maine look at that and are like, I don't think that is actually the politics I want representing me.
I don't think that's even really inside baseball, honestly, because I think that Susan Collins is pretty well. I think that like Obama era, like the Susan Collins, I think has been pretty well known as just like, and overall too, it's like the Republican brand is getting back to post Iraq War era levels of like just generally being like. This is, I think, one of the things that's kind of elusive about American politics overall is that people Americans don't really see parties as explicit ideological positions as much as like vehicles for their interests at any given time. And there was a period in time where it was genuinely like humiliating to admit to being a Republican unless you lived in like very specific enclaves. Like for the most part, people were just kind of hiding that because it was not something that they were really proud of. And especially after the Iraq War, they were like, okay, well, this party's just this is just like the evil racism party that does monstrous war. And Susan Collins was, got some shine on her during that weird post-2016 resistance era as like one of the ally Republicans, but I think for the most part,
so
people have been on to her bullshit for
anyone that I've ever talked to from the state of Maine is well aware of her games and what she's up to.
And I think just writ large, the Republican brand is in a very tough spot and is very fractured and very the MAGA coalition is just in full decline, which we talked about last time too. But one of the big abdications we got recently was Tulsi quitting, which not necessarily surprising, but not. And can I just say too, Kash Patel still in the job, still not fired from being FBI director.
Yeah.
Kash Patel is a
way to show resilience. You outlasted Bongino.
What a fucking king! Yeah, honestly, like maybe if there is a modern Caesar to reunite the American. This metaphor is falling apart, but I'm just saying, have we considered that maybe Kash Patel is our American Caesar? Has anyone considered that? I mean,
he's going to be ascendant. Crazy. Just you wait.
He's gonna. Yeah, come on. We're going.
We're about making predictions on this show.
Yeah,
we're all in on Kash.
We're all in on Kash Patel taking up the mantle because look, if it's an annoying voice contest between Kash Patel and Tucker Carlson, is it really that does Tucker
or JD
really have
Vance?
that much of
Everybody
an
knows
edge?
that JD Vance isn't going to be the presumptive
really
nominee.
That much more swagged up than Kash Patel? Do these guys really have that much
Cash
more
money?
Than Kash
He's got
Patel?
the name Cash,
name
dude. He's got to be the top of the Republican Party.
And he can get the woke vote because he's Indian. He can play that route. He can hit that note if he needs to. So I think that there's something there. I there's I believe in Kash.
Cash has all the momentum in the world. Way more than Plattner.
The Broken Wind podcast. Yeah, no, right, exactly. And continue to not investigate the Broken Wind podcast. We appreciate that. Oh, you know what just dropped in the news, my dude?
What?
The Department of Justice has officially subpoenaed Hassan and the head of Code Pink for their trip to Cuba.
Cuba, wow.
Yeah. Which, as you can imagine, they made very, very sure to clear every single possible legal hurdle they could and dot every I and cross every single T. So it's just one of your classic, we said you could do this and now we're going to penalize you. Right. It's just, just par for the course. It's like these assholes have the whole system of law is so tenuous and it's so sad. And I'm not someone to fetishize this stuff overall.
We didn't even talk about the the effective overturning of the Voting Rights Act, which really does get to the point you're making that the law has never been more tenuous.
Fake? Yeah. Just completely fake and meaningless and useless.
Then in this moment,
and yet I'm also getting calls from debt collectors for my student loans. Suck my it's off. Like the people who charged the Capitol for January 6th are getting to live on a lifetime stipend of taxpayer money.
Yeah, they could each get $1 million easily, no question.
College. Yeah, this is this country.
For that $1.7 billion Jacksonian slush fund.
Oh, and I have to pay taxes this year too? This shit's so depressing because it's the rules just don't exist and they just get faker and faker every day, and yet you need to pay your mortgage, you need to pay your bills, you need to pay your taxes, you need to pay your student loans, and also none of these people, the law doesn't apply to any of these people.
Everything is just a scam nestled in another scam.
Yeah, it sucks. It makes me so mad. And the whole tenuousness of it is that, like, people will at some point say, F you, I am not following these rules, and it will be total chaos, and there will be opportunities that come out of that, but it's generally not a good time when the rule of law breaks down in a country. Historically, I don't like. It's sad to say, but it's like it really isn't gonna be good if people start deciding that, like, oh, I guess, if I have the most guns and the most guys with guns, I make the laws here, because like that's what the next.
Yeah, I mean, look at what happened with that Voting Rights Act. That there was a red state. I can't remember which. It might have been Kentucky, but the people actually voted that they wanted to redistrict, and their own state Supreme Court said, F what the people vote for. We're gerrymandering to the right in favor of Republicans, even though that's against the law. And at this point, Republicans have ignored countless laws at the state level and have just said, F it, we're not obeying what the state Supreme Court says. And that is now the only appropriate response that Democratic states can do as well, is to say, F you, we're gerrymandering our states completely in favor of the Democratic Party. And then you have people who are saying, like Madison McMorrow, I believe, said this, that even if we do gerrymander the states, she wants centrist candidates to be run in those states, which completely defeats the purpose of even gerrymandering.
About the Democrats.
Yeah, so again, binding yourself to arbitrary rules, even though there is no rule of law in this country. Get that through your head.
And it's because the Democratic Party does not exist as a vehicle of class interest for the working class. And that's the fundamental problem. Like, that is the party that is needed, is one that exists as a vehicle for the interests of the working class. The Democratic Party exists as a vehicle for essentially maintaining and perpetuating the United States federal government. That is actually what it exists to do. It's not an ideological project really in any way besides the ideology of perpetuating the United States federal government, which, look, I mean, that is something that a party will need to do and be prepared to do. And that's why the Democrats kind of came into being in the first place, was because there was no real explicit organization aligned towards that goal in the United States. So the federal government was a total and constant clusterfuck. And the Democratic Party kind of grew like this fungus to help fill in the gaps, and now exists as this like vestigial organ that we describe as a party, but is actually the most useless the most useless possible organization you could join to resist fascism politically.
And on that note, too,
I take no pleasure in saying that.
On that note, too, I recently heard, I can't remember who said it, but I think it's very true after I heard it, that at least under a capitalist state, the concept of a political party is nothing but a euphemism for an oligarchy. That is what our two political parties, quote unquote, are. They are just vehicles for moneyed interests, the wealthiest Americans to channel their interests in, and that is all it is. And that is what slowly ascended as what we call parties, as you've alluded to, the Democratic Party being the first modern political party. But a better way to understand this is an oligarchy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and to round out the show, I just want to make a nice little return to what we were talking about Iran at the top of the show, and something we touched on, I think, many weeks ago now, on the pallets of cash. And I couldn't find it in the recording, but I remember you pointing out that the actual story of the original Obama pallets of cash story was that the Justice Department had frozen Iranian funds. The Obama administration, as a part of the nuclear deal, unfroze those
They
funds.
unfroze $400 million. And guess what Trump is doing right now? Guess what Trump has agreed to do in the new ceasefire deal?
One step at a time. One step at a time. Don't get ahead of yourself. So Fox News spins this as he's
giving them pallets of cash.
Giving them pallets of cash. And I'm like in high school listening to this, like, that's crazy.
That sounds bad.
I guess that's fine. That doesn't seem, can I have one? I don't know. Like, I guess it's But then now, as my co-host was alluding to, we are now rapidly approaching the finalized ceasefire where, surprise, surprise, whether Noel Donnie Deals likes it or not, the Iranians are getting their pallets of cash.
They're getting 50 times as many pallets of cash.
Dude,
$25 billion worth of unfrozen sanctioned assets. That's a lot of cash, a lot of pallets.
As an American, I instinctively, like, no matter what other factors are in the scenario, I instinctively have more respect for the person who is receiving more pallets of cash in a given circumstance. So it's put me in a tough place where I am an American technically by birth, but I really, I salute to Iran.
You've done quite well for yourself, though, to raise from $400 million of pallets of cash to $25 billion of pallets of cash. I do have to hand it to you. You've got the art of the deal, Iran. You've got the art of the deal.
This is what I mean. It's like Iran, keeps being with by American presidents and then keeps coming away with more pallets of cash. Like, that's awesome. What are they, like... I don't know.
I want some of that negotiating power, honestly.
Yeah, teach me, Iran. What is your secret? I need a straight. That's what it is. We got to have a straight.
Yeah, we got to control some sort of...
we don't have a straight.
Some kind of pinch point for resources.
We don't have a resource straight to control anywhere.
I'll never be a Jacob Fugger.
I know, we'll never be Fugger. I wonder how much cash fits on a pallet. I wonder what is like the technical amount for a palletized thing of cash. It's probably a lot. So,
I bet I could fit more cash on a pallet than most people.
Well, all right,
I'd really work. I'd work extra hard to really squeeze as much cash. I'd put it in between the pallets. I'd like.
All right.
However much you say a pallet of cash is, I'm sure that I can fit more cash.
You would have
in
more
that
cash.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Right.
I'll find a way.
Funny. All right. Well, that's cool. Again, just like I was saying about the Iranians, I respect you more for saying that than actually than the animosity about you wanting to get more cash than me is not outweighed by my respect to you as a money-getting savage. So respect for that, for being a money-getter.
Yeah, and another part of that deal is that Iran has said, even if we have a ceasefire negotiation at this point, we control the Strait of Hormuz forever in perpetuity, and we're charging a fee for that. Again, that was to be expected. We said that last week, that under no circumstances is that ever going to change. But the other thing...
And the glory hole we used to be getting free entry to, we're going to be paying a very fair fee now. It's just always how it's going to be.
And the other thing is, on top of that agreement where Obama was able to negotiate that the International Atomic Energy Agency would constantly be monitoring and making sure that Iran never has more than 3% enriched uranium.
Right.
The terms of this deal, because Trump truly knows the art of the deal, you wait 12 years and then you negotiate 50 times more cash to go to your opponent.
Much worse deal. Right, exactly.
and then instead of agreeing to enrichment, what Iran says is, if you uphold the terms of the ceasefire for 60 days, we'll revisit the conversation about regulating our nuclear energy. But at this point, we're doing whatever the we want. We're going to enrich to whatever point we want. So well done. Brilliant deal.
We'll revisit the conversation. Well, and it's the same thing like I was saying at the top of the show about the like weird psychic position of Iran in the psyche of the American ruling class, where it's like the way in which they keep repeating, look, we can't let Iran have a nuclear weapon. It's like the way they
can't let a psychopathic regime have nuclear power. Not like that's been the case since the 1930s of the United States. Ever since we dropped the atomic bombs, we've known exactly what it's like to have psychos in charge of nuclear power.
Exactly, right. Exactly. It's like like, the more you guys say that and the more insane you behave in the course of all of this, the less credibility that carries.
You can't let psychos have nukes. That's why we have nukes.
Bloodthirsty maniacs have nukes. Yeah, it's so...
When crazy people have nuclear weapons, bad things happen.
It is so weird. It's like... You just hear it and you're like, from the stupidest, most dangerous people on earth who have seen no pretext of legality that is too flimsy for them to just like completely blow through. There's no international law. There's nothing that they follow when it's, inconvenient for them.
Yeah, but the level-headed Iranians who emerged victorious out of this deal,
right,
they would be really dangerous if they had nukes. And so the fact of the matter is, actually, had Iran just had nukes this whole time, there would be a theory of mutual destruction, and absolutely none of this would have happened. Therefore, the world would have been a safer place if Iran had nukes, period.
Right. Exactly. It just is plain as day. It's the sad thing. It's like, it really, like, it's just hard to see any other reality when you're looking at the way things have played out. And I forget exactly where I was getting with that, but it's like, it is just so enervating to listen to. And yeah, like, art of the deal here. I mean, the metaphor of going into a glory hole and getting stuck in it and then having to pretend that
I thought of that a few weeks ago, and it has been on my mind pretty much any time that I see Donald Trump. You realize he is a man with his stuck in a glory hole. He's trying to put on a brave face and let people know, I don't have my in a glory hole.
Well, it's a terrible metaphor because it's very disrespectful to Iran. I think Iran deserves a much better side of that metaphor than the glory hole.
You're not a glory hole.
But hold on. The other thing is, like, the image of Donald Trump being stuck in a glory hole while also having to pretend he has the upper hand over said glory hole.
That's exactly what I mean.
That's what's getting me.
How can a person be so in such an undignified position and come out looking on top? And that's why Iran recently tweeted this message. They said, "It should be noted that the American officials have acknowledged in multiple messages to Iran that Trump's tweets are primarily for promotional purposes and media consumption within the United States, and they have recommended that no attention be paid to these statements."
The blockade is locking all the other perverts in the bathroom with you, too. The blockade is being like, and now no one can leave as long as my is stuck in the glory hole. And now,
but we're coming out tough. I put caution police tape around the glory hole. I'm still stuck in the stall.
I have yellow caution tape.
I have the upper hand.
But I assure you, my is stuck here very strongly. I'm in a very my is stuck in a very superior position here. It's so just up at a podium with his like face, like his lower half stuck against a bathroom stall wall.
Yeah, they had to cut the stall out of the wall and they bring it anyway.
The stall to the Oval Office like conference room, just to be like, we're monitoring the situation. It looks like, we're gonna have my out of the glory hole by next week, and all the markets, they're telling me, Donald, your is gonna be bigger coming out of the glory hole. Yeah, it's coming out bigger. It's gonna be, you're gonna have a bigger penis, and I'm like, it's true. They're giving me a bigger penis. That's why it's taking so long.
Yeah, it's just taking a while so I can have an even larger penis in the end.
My penis is getting bigger on the other side, actually. That's why it's stuck. But it'll be out after this weekend, and it's gonna be huge.
It's gonna be like massive.
And as soon as I get it out, your oil prices are gonna plummet. That's what he keeps saying.
The Chinese are furious. The Chinese are so mad. They've been telling the Iranians, so we want bigger dicks. They've been saying it for years. I got it. I don't know how. They don't know how, but I got it. I got the Iranians are giving me a bigger penis. That's how it's going. So, yeah, I guess on that note, we can end the show. I think that's good. But, thanks for listening if you made it this far. And
thanks for sticking past the glory hole metaphor.
The glory hole, It's not a perfect metaphor, but it the image of Donald Trump being stuck in just put Donald Trump in the most undignified position you could imagine, and then have him just keep blustering through it like
everything's
he has the
fine.
Upper hand. I'm doing great. This is going really
great.
well. That'll what if you're trying to find a way to find a chuckle in these grim times, that's what works for us. So we hope it works for you too. We hope you've enjoyed listening, and so check out the Patreon if you want. There's all types of good stuff on there. I think we just put out our episode where our timely discussion about the Kendrick Drake beef, which I think a new Drake album just came out, so who knows, we may be revisiting that topic
we might
soon.
have to revisit that topic. And then we also just released Florida Part 7, so we hope you enjoy that.
Yeah, come on down to the swamps. But we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for coming around, and we'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.
We don't highlight the means, so we settle for them greens. Yeah, highlight the trees when I send it to my knees. I don't sway with the breeze, they can't send me to my knees, yeah.